Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? Had an idea that you were very passionate about and wanted to share it with the world? When I was trying to get this podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions too. How do I record an episode? How do I get my show into all the apps people like to listen to? How do I make money on my podcast? The answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now by reading this ad. Anchor's been really easy to use. I can create, edit, and distribute my podcast seamlessly. The experience has been great, and I can't believe I waited this long to start a podcast. So if you always wanted to start a podcast and make money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start. That's anchor.fm/start to join me and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. Can't wait to hear your podcast. What's up, podcast peeps? This is the 228 podcast. My name's Patrick. And if you're listening to this, it's because I've tried to record this episode like 3 times on my way home. It just didn't come out right. I was down in the dumps and really didn't want a podcast tonight. But I felt the need to do it. And I did a podcast last night, and I mentioned a guy by the name of Matt Manero. And I wanted to expand on his book because I think it's the one book that I've read that really hit home. And I'm not going to give all the details, but I'll give some of them and expand on his one or two of his points. So if you haven't heard of the guy, his name is Matt Manero. He wrote a book called You Need More Money. And the book is split up into 2 sections. The first section is the wake-up call. And the second section is the plan, or how you get to make more money, or the path, the strategy to make more money. So I'll get in the first part of the book, but I won't tell you the rest of it. And then there's another little caveat that he didn't put in the book that's really touching too. So I mentioned this in the last podcast. Matt Manero's brother-in-law, his wife's brother, passes away, leaves the family with nothing but $100 in the bank. But before the brother-in-law passes away, Matt talks to his brother-in-law, and his brother-in-law says, "Hey, please take care of my family." And Matt said, "Don't worry, buddy. I'll get you taken care of." And ended up taking care of the funeral costs, paid off all his bills, and was able to help his surviving wife and kids. But, you know, the thought about that is, if you're working in a job that you hate, or you're making money and living paycheck to paycheck, you're behind the 8 ball. Because one point is, what if something happens to you? Are you financially secure to take care, or to be able to not leave your surviving family in a bind? Or let's say your spouse or a child or a mother, passes away, unfortunately. And are you able to pick up and take care of things financially? Number one. Number two, are you able to spend time with that
relative that may be passing away or in the final stages of their life, a wife, a father, or a child, God forbid, somebody that might be dying of cancer and they're on their last leg. Are you able to take time away from the rat race that you're running in order to spend the last few times that you may be able to spend with that person? That's what money brings to you. Money brings you options. Money brings you the ability to pay those bills, pay for a funeral, take time away, spend the time with that dying relative or friend, that spouse, what if, or God forbid, another thing, what if something would happen to you or your wife, or in my case, my wife, my kid, my mother-in-law, my brother-in-law, my mom and dad? Would I be in a position to support them financially? Could I take time off and just go and do? I can't do that right now, to be honest with you. But taking the steps forward to make that a possibility and make that not even a possibility, but it's going to happen. So it's something to think about. I give you a case in point. A friend of mine, she likes to go out or whatever, and I think her mother lives next door to her or something. But I even posed the question to her. Well, let's say if something happened to your mother, would you be able to take the time off that you would need, as much time as you want, month, 2 months, whatever, to be with that person or be with your mother in her last days on this earth? A lot of people, I would say the majority of the people in the United States cannot, because we're all living paycheck to paycheck. We're all living, on the cusp of one major catastrophe, and that's it. It's game over. So Matt, the first part of his book really puts things in perspective. And if you haven't read this book, please read it. It's one of the books that have really changed my life. And his wake-up call really put things in perspective. And it really gave me the ability to talk to my wife, who's been doing our finances or taking care of our finances, and opened a communication between my wife and I about our finances. I'll be frank about it. It was a wake-up call for me too. It snapped me back into it, checked me back into our relationship, and where things were probably right on the cusp of ending. I snapped right back into it, and I think it was exciting for her, and we probably still have a long way to go to get back on our feet, but she knows I've checked in, and I think she's slowly but surely checking in with me, and we're both, attacking this thing head on. And I'll probably here shortly talk to her about the business that I'm building, because I haven't really told her about my my plans and how I'm going to pursue them, and I need her on board for that support. So getting back to the book, Matt Manero plots out a strategy and some milestones in his book that'll help you along the way get to a place where you're accumulating wealth. Now, a side note that a part of the book that he didn't put in was what to expect, or what amounts of money are we looking at? So he says at 150,000, life starts to get good. Just starts. At 250,000, life gets good. And at 500,000, and this is per year, life is great. So around the 400 to 500,000 dollar a year mark, that's pretty much fuck you money. You know, you can do what you want, basically. So you don't have to make the millions, even though you can. Believe me, I see a ton of money. There is money everywhere. You're not just limited to what your employer pays you every 2 weeks. It's there. All you have to do, that stream of money is coming in. All you have to do is reach out and just direct some your way, and you'll be fine. But that's kind of the levels that you're looking at. You don't have to make millions. You don't have to be a baller. You don't have to do any of this stuff. If you can get to 500,000 in a 10-year span, you'll be doing good. And usually anything building worthwhile is going to take you 5, 10, 15 years, maybe even 20. I think that you can probably, with your head down and working, can reach a higher status in about 10 to 15 years. And that's kind of where I'm shooting at. It's a long game strategy. So, but pick up the book. It's You Need More Money by Matt Manero. And I promise you, this book will change your life. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. I really wasn't going to do this podcast, but I feel like I have to do it. It's kind of a routine for me. Thank y'all for listening. I love you guys. If you like the podcast, please like, subscribe, share on whatever platform you're on. I also have listener support up. You can support the podcast at 228.com. As little as 99 cents a month. Just hit the subscribe, the sponsorship button, and you'll be in there. So thank you very much. Talk to you later.